My name is Nader and I make videos for international students and people moving to Canada. If you fall under any of those categories, be sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on my notifications, because there might be a news release or an update about, a way you can come to Canada, a way you can live here, and if you're not subscribed, you're not going to be able to get that notification. I'm making these videos every single day. Sometimes I release 3 a day. It's a lot of notifications, but if this is something you're committed to, you're going to want to watch every single one of my videos. Stay engaged. This is a community that's going to help you, and not only are you going to be able to come to Canada, but we're going to help you launch up like a rocket and be successful. So right now I want to talk about the cost of living in Canada, and I want to talk about some Canadian provinces and cities that you may want to be looking at right now. Right now I'm in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and you can immigrate here through the Atlantic Pilot Program. You can find job offers. There's so many different ways to come to Halifax. It's one of the more immigrant-friendly cities in Canada, and also the cost of living isn't too high. Opposed to cities like Toronto, Vancouver, and Calgary, Halifax is pretty fairly priced. Now, when we're looking at those larger cities, obviously you're going to probably have more international populations, but Halifax's international population is growing. I don't just want to sell Halifax to you. I want to actually give you an idea, and this is a bit different, but it's going to allow you to immigrate to Canada fairly cheaply. Look at rural areas. Look at places like Peterborough, Ontario, Cobourg, Ontario. Look at rural areas in Canada. Look at rural New Brunswick. If you move to a rural area, you may not be able to, find tons of jobs really fast, but it's going to be a lot cheaper, and guess what? If you have some money saved, you can start a business. You can come to Canada and start a business rural. And if you're living in the middle of the country, or you're living, in rural Canada, you get a real sense of what Canadians are actually like. You're going to really understand it. It's going to give you leverage when you move to the big city. That's not something that everyone wants to do. They want to move to Toronto, maybe have the money to do that. But the cost of living in Canada it can be fairly expensive, very expensive, like living in New York City, if you're in Vancouver or Toronto, somewhere in between there. It's going to be like New York, London type of costs. Probably not as expensive, but close, especially Vancouver. If you're right in the heart of Vancouver, it can be really pricey. But again, moving to those smaller cities, moving to Winnipeg, even if you can go to Alberta and live in Red Deer. That's what I'm saying, rural. Like Red Deer is not necessarily like super rural, but you're gonna get cheaper properties in Red Deer. Rivière-du-Loup or Rivière-du-Loup, you're gonna get cheap properties there as well. It's in Quebec, and obviously French speaking, you can learn another language. You can get a really large property for a very limited, small price. Cheap. It's cheap. It's just cheap, okay? Like 200 grand, 300 grand, 400 grand. In 400 grand range, you can get like a 5-bedroom, which is like in Toronto, that would be like really expensive. So look at those rural areas. Look for cities. If you want to go to a bigger city, look for cities like Halifax. Look for places that are going to actually give you more bang for your buck, but also expose you to an international population. So either go rural or go for smaller city, because the cost of living can really fluctuate depending on where you're at. Now, actual figures and prices. Canada is the second largest country in terms of landmass in the whole world. So I'm not going to, list off every single place, but I will be making more videos discussing the prices of every single place in Canada, every single, all the major cities. I'm going to talk about the provinces, and I'm going to make videos for them. So turn my notifications on, subscribe, keep watching for more important information. I promise I'll update you about everything when it comes to moving and living in Canada.